Here are some films that come from the edge of horror where not a lot of cash is exchanged, but the films made there make it up in passion for the horror genre. Let's start binging. Welcome back to ML Miller Frights. I'm ML Miller. Before we begin, please do me a favor and punch that like button down below. Share this video with all of your social media addicted pals. Click subscribe to this channel and ring that bell for notifications. Low Budget Binge is where we venture down the path less traveled and look at low budget, no budget, and sometimes international films that never get that top billing you see with the usual Hollywood fare. I'll indicate in the review down below where you can find these films along with their trailers. Here we go. Slaughter Day is available for the first time in a special collector's edition Blu-ray from Wild Eye Releasing and Visual Vengeance. It's directed by Brent Cousins and written by Bryan Cousins and Brent Cousins. A pair of carpenters head into the woods to join the rest of their crew who are renovating a cabin. When they arrive, they meet a disgruntled worker in possession of the Necronomicon, granting him supernatural powers, enabling him to enact revenge on those who wronged him. Possessions, dismemberings, inane stunts, and admirably bad filmmaking ensues. Visual Vengeance has been resurrecting some long-lost shot-on-video, aka SOV, and do-it-yourself, aka DIY, films from the golden days of independent horror, aka the late 80s and early 90s. It was an era where a video store was the most popular place in town, and shops would fill their racks with just about any title available for kids like me to rent and ooh and ah over. It was a glorious time, and those who didn't experience will never know the feeling of seeing endless racks and racks of horror, carnage, spatter, splatter, and monsters at your local video store, run by managers who cared not that a kid like me, someone much too young to see these types of films, was renting them in bulk. While oldies like me will appreciate the hard work Visual Vengeance has done to restore and excavate these lost gems, they are also providing these low-budget flicks for a new generation to enjoy. Slaughter Day is one of those gems. It's a film made with reckless abandon by a bunch of guys with a video camera and a deep love for the horror genre. While the story may be as flimsy as the line delivery, it's undeniable that these guys are giving it their all to make the best movie their small budget can allow. In the fine art world, there's something called outsider art. It's made by untrained artists who have never had an art lesson, yet somehow has the primal urge to create. Now, these art pieces may not follow the standards of what trained artists follow, but that's the appeal. It shows that creativity is something not learned, but an urge that comes from deep inside of us all. Now, the dudes who put together Slaughter Day most likely never took a film course in their life. All they had was a camera and a dream, and damn it if they didn't make a pretty entertaining movie. Obviously, these guys saw and loved Evil Dead 2, as the film borrows entire scenes from Raimi's classic underground hit, but the lengths these guys go to bring these horrors to life are downright inspiring. While how the effects are done are pretty obvious, Brent and Bryan Cousins, who wrote and directed this film, go to great leaps to deliver guts and gore. Many scenes are implemented by tossing gore and grue over holes dug in the ground so it appears the head is severed. There are even some wonderfully awesome scenes where a book on the floor spouts arms and pulls a person into it, the book hilariously being H.R. Giger's Necronomicon, which at that time could have been picked up at any strip mall's Read More bookstore. The extent these effects are painstakingly made show where the focus of the filmmakers were. Still, the gore and spatter are what make this film so good, so their hard work pays off. There's also a crazy recklessness that this entire film possesses, as the cast and crew really don't seem to care if they get hurt. There's a fight on the back of a moving truck that is achieved through dumb luck and youthful abandon. You won't see that type of lack of concern for one's own well-being in a big budgeter. Seeing these guys dangle off the ledge, fall backwards off a boat into the ocean, or crawl out the window of a moving car are things only dumb kids do, and thankfully, they seem to make it out okay. Another aspect I adore about Slaughter Day is that even though it might not have been obvious when the film was released on VHS, you can hear the director off camera giving cues to the actors during the takes. I don't know if they simply didn't think they could be heard or decided they'd fix it in post and never got around to it, but hearing someone say, "Go!" or "Get out of the way!" before the action starts and stops is hilarious and downright precious. What I love about these low-budget films is that often you can see the seams of how the film is put together. And if you love film like me, you love knowing how the sausage was made. Now, most big budget films are able to smooth out the kinks and cover it up with a layer of slick movie magic. Just because films like Slaughter Day don't have the cash or the know how to do that, they make it up in youthful energy and an undeniable passion for the genre. That's why I love low budget films, and that's why Slaughter Day is one of the best, worst movies you're bound to see. Visual Vengeance has put together quite the special edition of Slaughter Day, including a presentation of the film from the archival 1991 SD master from the original tapes, a new audio commentary with Brent and Blake Cousins, a new interview with the Cousins brothers, a limited edition slipcase by the Dude Designs, the filmmaker's early short films, liner notes, a collectible mini poster, and a VHS sticker set. That's pretty keen for a film indie lovers really shouldn't miss. Something in the Woods is new on demand and digital download from Uncork'd Entertainment. It's directed by Alexander T. Hwang and written by Deanna Gomez. There's something in the woods and it likes to feed on people. A pair of women flee after a home invasion gone wrong to look for a safe haven from a Wendigo-like monster that infects people with its bite and claws with an insatiable hunger. Something in the Woods is bare minimum filmmaking. I get trying to make a low-budget movie, but when you only have the cash for computer-generated animation that is a skosh more realistic than Saturday morning cartoons, then why not use the cash to make a decent practical monster? Numerous scenes show this beast ambling around the forest, barely paying attention to the shading, gravity, and realistic movements. The creature kind of looks like a homeless elf with extremely skinny and elongated arms. Even while there might be some scenes where the monster could have been scary, seeing it CG animated murders all shock potential. I guess this film does have a person dressed as the monster in some scenes, but I don't understand why they used the bad CG in the first place and just went with the practical effects the whole time. The cast is decent. Nicola Sinaglia plays a selfish influencer, but does the job well. It doesn't make for a character one might feel for, but she's a decent actress, as is her co-star, Vienna Hayden, who plays a disgruntled daughter of a corrupt politician. So there is some kind of talent behind the film. I did like the final scene where we understand just how the curse is passed from one person to the next, but that's me straining to find something worthwhile in Something in the Woods. The movie, aka Renegade, is new on digital download from Uncork'd Entertainment. It's directed and written by Michael Mandell. An aspiring filmmaker, Walter, played by Jared Pistilli, invades the home of a fading superstar actress named Janet, played by Bonnie Root. Through his own camera lens, Walter tortures, robs, rapes, and forces Janet to star in his movie. The movie is a found footage-esque movie, all made from the perspective of one madman's camera. It's a film plot done before, going all the way back to Scorsese's King of Comedy, and back again to Joker, where someone seeking fame and stardom takes the bull by the horns, or in this case, the actress by the hair, and decides that if the studio doesn't want to make their film, they'll break any law and moral value in order to make it themselves. That's the overall theme of the movie, and while it has been done before, the movie does a decent job of at least presenting this familiar concept. It's also well acted. Bonnie Root is really good as Janet, who at first is aggressive towards her attacker, but soon learns that the only way she may get out of this alive is to go along with this madman's plan and make his movie. These scenes are believable because A, she's a film actress and her performance shows she's good at her trade, and also B, Walter is a psychotic moron who is actually convinced she wants to be in his film. Jared Pistilli is solid as the psycho wannabe filmmaker, his comic timing is good, and he does portray the mania in a believable and scary way. That's pretty much all of the good I have to say about the movie. The rest, not so good. The movie is mean to an extreme and pointless level. Walter's acts against Janet become increasingly cruel and horrifying. I'm no prude. I've endured plenty of torture porn films. I just feel that horror has evolved past that low level in the genre's history, and seeing as this is not only torture porn, but also a found footage first-person POV film, another subgenre that is quite long in the tooth, The movie feels like a movie made about 15 years too late. It's not that the movie doesn't have anything to say, it's trying to show the darkness of fame and those overcome by dark aspirations to get a taste of that stardom. But it's not saying anything new. It goes for very cheap humor that doesn't hit its mark most of the time. The beats that are supposed to be shocking end up just being disgusting. The tone of the film is all over the place. It's supposed to be a dark comedy. Sometimes, other times, it's just torture and rape porn, which is not so funny. Walter forgets he's making a movie and just robs Janet, then tortures her, then rapes her, all because it pops into his head at the moment, not because it's in the script. Once the rape occurred, I just checked out of the movie and couldn't wait for the torture of me having to watch the film to just come to an end. Honestly, the way the rape is handled in this movie made me want to puke, especially the conversation after where Walter denies raping Janet right after he does it. This is just guttural violence and mistreatment of women for the sake of it, and though it's trying to say something deeper, that's all it ended up being. It also ends on a lackluster beat so bleak that it makes the whole endeavor feel pointless. So while there is talent in the acting and the premise has depth, the movie really is one film I couldn't wait to finally be over. We're All Going to the World's Fair is new streaming on HBO MAX. It's directed and written by Jane Schoenbrun. Casey, played by Anna Cobb, is an introverted teen who decides to do a creepypasta internet challenge called The World's Fair, and after reciting the lines and performing the ritual, believes she has been cursed. Another person who believes in the curse is JLB, played by Beyond the Black Rainbow's Michael J. Rogers, and after watching Casey's videos, he reaches out to her to help her through this curse. We're All Going to the World's Fair has been praised and talked about since it premiered at Sundance in 2021, and I was really looking forward to checking it out. I didn't catch it when it was released digitally, but it showed up on HBO Max this month, so I finally got to catch up with it. Simply put, I don't get what all the fuss is about. I agree with many of the reviewers that Anna Cobbs is an actress who commands the screen every time she's on it. She has deep, soulful eyes and presents to have intelligence beyond her years. It's that Jodie Foster, Natalie Portman style of being able to display a wide range of emotions despite the actor's young age. With her goth looks, I can imagine Tim Burton will swipe this little emo teen up for his next movie for sure. Cobb goes all out in a few key scenes, dancing like no one's watching, longingly staring at the screen, and attempting to have some connection with anyone out there to cure her loneliness. And while Cobb is outstanding in the role, there's simply not much of a movie to see here. Most of the movie is made of Cobb staring at the screen or Cobb walking around the neighborhood while mumbling into the camera. While this is a first-person POV film, I'd shy away from calling it a true found footage film as it switches media between a computer camera and handheld iPhone. Aside from one scene where Cobb dons day-glow makeup, not many of these shots are composed in an interesting way. This is most likely a film made during the pandemic, so I understand the small cast and low production, but this is bare-bones filmmaking at its bare-bonesiest. There's one scene midway through that might show a tiny bit of strange atmosphere as a result of the curse. It's decently orchestrated, but from an excitement perspective, We're All Going to the World's Fair makes any paranormal activity feel like Mad Max Fury Road. One of the more confusing things is exactly what this film is trying to say. Actor Michael J. Rogers, who played the creepy doctor in Beyond the Black Rainbow, plays another creepy character who seems to be reaching out across the web to help a teen. His motivations are vague and murky, and he very well could be a predator, as he has a somewhat delusional rant towards the end that left me more suspicious than anything else. I guess this might want to communicate how these viral videos and online communications only contribute to the ennui of those who were lonely and depressed in the first place. Much of the symptoms Casey experiences are an example of self-fulfilling prophecy, where those looking for proof of a mysterious curse are going to find it if they look hard enough and don't take care of themselves. But there is no real denouement that sums up what Casey has learned from all of this. It really feels like there is a story somewhere in We're All Going to the State Fair, but I don't think filmmaker Jane Schoenbrun gets to communicate it. I hope to see Ann Cobb in future films, but this one isn't scary, it isn't suspenseful, it's monotone and quite boring, and I don't know what those other reviewers saw. For me, this is a film with a rising star but no story, theme, or point to keep that star busy. Don't Look at the Demon, aka The Medium, is new in select theaters from Outsider Films. It's directed by Brando Lee and written by Brando Lee and Alfie Palermo. Fiona Dourif plays Jules, a sensitive paranormal investigator in a team that travels the world looking for strange and unusual occurrences. After witnessing a ritual performed by a monk in Malaysia, Jules is prompted by unnatural forces to check in on an American couple 4 hours away who are being haunted by an evil entity. Once the team arrives, Jules is overwhelmed by the power of this demon and vows to help the couple in any way she can, even though the demon is more powerful than she's ever encountered before. It's awesome to see Fiona Dourif following in the footsteps of her genre-friendly father, Brad Dourif, and starring in a good old demon possession flick. While Don't Look at the Demon is no Exorcist 3, it is a solid story about hauntings and possessions. Dourif is a wonderful actress, and while I always thought that big beautiful tumble of hair on her head was to reflect Chucky's out-of-control mop in the Chucky series that she stars in, it seems she's sporting that hair all the time, and I love it. Dourif gives an emotional and physical challenging performance here and shows she's a true talent in the horror genre. Don't Look at the Demon has quite a few effective scenes filled with scary sights and disturbing imagery. I think at times it relies too much on the jump scare, with a ghost suddenly appearing right in front of an investigator's and viewer's face. Sure, this provided the necessary jolt, but I feel this effect was used too many times. The story also relies quite a bit on the spectacle of ritual. It opens with a ritualistic exorcism of some bad mojo in a religious sanctuary. Later, the paranormal team performs a ritual, and then when that seance exorcism fails, the monk from the beginning is brought back to do another one. That's a ritual or two too many for my tastes. I think a little more creativity in the plot might have allowed for some kind of variation in the way the forces of the supernatural could be combated. Still, Don't Look at the Demon is better produced and acted than your usual exorcism yarn. Fiona Dourif elevates the material to a new level, and the rest of the cast are capable actors as well. Set in the same area as the excellent film The Medium, released late last year, I think that film is much more effective in conveying the power of demons in another culture than Don't Look at the Demon. It is a decent watch, not over the top great, but better than most in the subgenre. Finally, Wake the Kids and Alert the Neighbors. Spirit Halloween the movie is new in select theaters and available on demand and digital download. It's directed by David Pogue and written by Billy Bates. Jake, played by Donovan Colin, is at that awkward age where he still loves celebrating things like Halloween, but is beginning to notice girls and deciding whether or not he's too old to dress up and go trick-or-treating like he's done for as long as he remembers. His best friend Carson, played by Dylan Martin Frankel, is ready to leave that stuff behind and start partying with the big kids, while his other best friend, Bo, played by Jaden J. Smith, is on the fence. After visiting their local Spirit Halloween store, they come up with the idea to hide in the store past closing time and spending the night in the store alone for a Halloween adventure. Little do they know that the ghost of a greedy old miser named Alex Windsor, played by the incomparable Christopher Lloyd, haunts the lot that the Spirit Halloween store takes over for the season, and takes control of all of the monstrosities that lurk in the aisles of the store. Meanwhile, Jake's crush / Carson's older sister, Kate, played by Marissa Reyes, is tasked to look out for the preteens, tracks them down, and ends up trapped in the store with the kids and the ghost. Oh, and Rachel Lee Cook plays a middle-aged mom of Jake, which made me feel pretty goddamn old. Spirit Halloween, the movie, is a perfect fine starter horror movie for younger kids. It doesn't have the teeth of scary stories to tell in the dark. It's more along the lines of a more vanilla version of The Monster Squad than anything else. It's not a particularly bad film. The kids actually talk like kids, not like some 40-year-old writer attempting to guess what the cool kids are saying these days. And while the thrills and chills are relatively harmless, and there is hardly a drop of blood dripped, it manages to have a few creepy scares that will make youngsters laugh and scream. Though I was watching much more intense and R-rated horrors at that age, I was a ghoulish child, folks, I do think this would work for kids around the range of 7 to 11 years old. The kid actors are all pretty solid, with Marissa Reyes being the best of the bunch. It makes sense because she's the oldest kid actor in the group. She's got that Disney kid quality, filled with confidence and energy. I also really liked Jaden J. Smith, no relation to Will, who plays Bo. He's got some decent comic timing and has some of the best lines. But none of the kids are outstandingly bad in this, which made it all the more watchable for me. Nothing takes me out of a movie than bad child acting. It was great seeing Christopher Lloyd as the ghost. He appears in the flesh only in the intro, and then later narrates the voice of a glowing orb that travels from one monster to the next in the store. Hearing his voice took me back to some of his best films, and it was another positive going for this movie. People occasionally look to me for recommendations for all ages horror, and unfortunately, there really aren't a lot of them, especially lately. I mean, have you seen Rob Zombie's Monsters? Yeesh. Most horror films are either too sophisticated and graphic or too dumb and pandering. Spirit Halloween, the movie, isn't going to satisfy the adults looking for a good horror film to watch this season, but it's all ages horror that is better than most. It's not too scary, but much better than most kiddie horror films I've seen lately.
You're doomed.